Bam, thank you so much for coming on the Easy Prey podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
So, can you give myself and the audience a little bit of background about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Bam Azizi. I'm co-founder and CEO of Mesh Connect, or as we call it, Mesh. My background is I have a PhD in computer science. I started my previous company called No Password, where my team and I built 2,000 integrations to bring frictionless, passwordless authentication to life. And then that company got acquired by a public company called LogMeIn, which is the parent company of LastPass. Probably you're familiar with that. And then I've been working there for a couple of years, and then I started Mesh after that. So that's kind of my background. And Even though I'm coming from the security background, what we're doing in Mesh is kind of related to identity and security, and we can get into that later.
Yeah, we'll weave into that. Did you intend to go into, when you're going through your computer science, were you intending to go into security, or was that just kind of an opportunity that presented itself?
Yeah, so right out of the university, there was a lab in the university that you had to, it was like connected to a lot of instruments. It was not like you cannot connect your own laptop to it. So you had to log in those laptops. And then if someone sent you an email and you needed that information to be printed or used for that instrument, you had to log into your email in a shared computer. So I was always thinking about like, what if we had a device that you could just simply like a USB thumb drive that you could connect to that lab instrument, and then you could collect all of your passwords in a secure way. And then when you're done, you just remove it and then we call it a day. That idea kind of died. I didn't pursue that, but it was just like, as a person who loves security, I'm always like, never trust, always verify. I hate like logging in a random
Hmm.
computer. But it was kind of bothering me. And then when I started my previous company, initially it was a hardware company, and there was an interesting story because always like the initial idea is way different than the final result. It started with a ring, so you could wear that ring. It had motion sensors on it, and basically you could detect your hands gesture, and you could control a drone or a
Hmm.
robot or your computer. It was a very cool device, but nobody was willing to pay for it. And
Yeah.
then we started going after enterprise to sell that device. And then they said, like, if you can make it in a way that our employees can wear this, and then we can identify them so they can go inside different rooms like RFID, like a badge. Instead of badge, it's just on the ring, and then
Yeah.
they can unlock the computer. So we started building this security use case around that, and then that idea that came from the lab kind of merged with that ring. And then the ring was very expensive. And then I remember iPhone just started launching Touch ID on their
Hmm.
phones. And then it felt like, okay, all the motion sensors that we have in this ring, it existed already in the phone. On top of that, they have GPS, so we can do geofencing. On top of that, there is a biometric Touch ID. And while you're reinventing the hardware, which is very hard to build and it's very expensive, we can just build a software, and that's how No Password kind of born. So we ditched the hardware idea, and then we went after basically working on a software company called No Password, and then that's how No Password started. So it kind of naturally evolved. It was
Yeah.
in the back of my head at some point, but it came to fruition after a couple of years.
That's cool. So, one of the things that I like to ask my cybersecurity guests, because I'm trying to destigmatize people that either fall victim to cybersecurity incidents or fall for a scam. So, I'm starting to ask everybody, have you or a family member had a cybersecurity incident or fallen for a scam?
Many times. So that's it's not a shame. Definitely users like you can first of all, you cannot educate every single user on the planet. People are making mistakes all the time, and there is no shame to it. As it goes to your like podcast name, Easy Prey, say we all believe in the industry that users are the weak links. So the systems should be built by design to avoid those pitfalls for end users. It should be so simple for end users that even if they want to make a mistake, there should be some mechanism to avoid that. But as a personal story of like being hacked, so in not in no password, but during like early days at Mesh, um, someone basically sent a message on behalf of me to one of our employees and said like, this is Bam Azizi. I'm sure like everyone had similar experience. It was very legit. And then that person reached out to me and he said, I'm in a meeting. And the person in the text was also saying like, I'm in a meeting. I need you to run a favor or run errands for me.
Mm.
The favor was either buy a gift card for me and then read back the number. And then if you're not close to any physical store and cannot buy a gift card, this is the wallet address. You can send some crypto. I want to kind of gift someone, and I'm in a meeting. I can't do that right now. Can you do that on behalf of me? Um, it was a different number, but I was very shocked that when the guy was showing me that like, is this you? Like I'm getting this text and you're in a meeting, and that person was saying I'm in a meeting. But more importantly, they like somehow hacked his device and assigned that number to my name.
Oh,
So from
wow.
his perspective, the text was coming from Bam Azizi. There was no number, but like nothing I can do to stop it. But like other than just explaining that to new employees that this could happen, there is an experience. So it's part of our booklet. Every new employees have to go through certain training, but it happens to everyone, and we should not be ashamed of that.
Yeah, it definitely is on the these sort of things are on the rise, and I think it's one of those things that we have to get it on the defensive side. You have to get it right 100% of the time, and someone who's trying to take advantage of us just needs to get it one time in order
Yes,
to get something out of us, or at least to move the scam forward.
yes, that's correct.
So
Yeah,
you were talking about crypto. Is that a space that you're interested in and that Mesh is involved in?
yeah. So initially, when we started Mesh, it was a B2C application that, and I thought like I was hopeful that some of the like brands in the industry already solved the identity aspect of financial institutions and connection layers. Until I started using it as an expert in identity space and authentication space, I felt like we can do better. Our app initially was a B2C application or company that you could connect your Robinhood, your Coinbase, and manage everything in one place. So we had equity and crypto supported as an asset class. And then we started building our own integrations because we needed real-time data. And then we needed basically to be able to do things with those connections, not just reading information. If, for instance, if you connect your Robinhood, I wanted you to be able to like trade on your Robinhood
Hmm.
as well. Or if you connect your Coinbase, you want to buy this crypto or that crypto, you should be able to do that. And then in 2022, all the consumers and also crypto craze kind of went down,
Yeah.
and people were not interested in buying things or doing things in their brokerage applications anymore. And we felt like what we have built, those integrations could be used by others who already have users, and there are many different use cases that we can enable them outside of the investment. So we pivoted from B2C to B2B. And again, I'm back to the identity space and building integrations, authentications to make sure people can connect securely and in a compliant way their brokerage apps and exchanges and wallets. And we are selling it to other fintech companies, exchanges and wallets. And recently we're working on payment and payout use cases and also compliance use cases. So these are things that we're building, and most of it is focused on crypto. We are not a crypto company in the sense that we're not issuing a token, or we're not an exchange, but we're selling basically an infrastructure, if you will, to other crypto companies.
That's very interesting. Um, do you feel like there is a that you kind of put yourself in a position where there's a lot of financial risk to what you're doing, and how do you kind of mitigate that with security?
Yeah, I was trying to escape the identity space, but I kind of got dragged back into it. I think there are a lot of room for improvement when it comes to the crypto industry, both from security perspective and from compliance perspective. You're basically building rails, and usually security and compliance act as a guardrail. So that, like for security, you can basically build your own guardrails, but when it comes to compliance, it's coming from the regulators
Yeah.
and basically agencies run by governments that they set those frameworks. And then the moment they become available, you implement them. And that makes your solution more appealing to risk-averse companies like banks and
Hmm.
others. So I feel like what we're doing, because of our background in security, helps the industry to move forward. Even though there is an actual risk that we're taking as a company at the forefront of it, but we're
Yeah.
willing to take that risk for a better world.
Is that one of the challenges that you see kind of in that crypto space is because there isn't a really tight framework of compliance and regulations that it's really that it's I don't know, a space that's easy for fraud, manipulation, misuse, scams.
Yeah, I think by default, crypto is an open ecosystem, and it's by design.
Yeah.
They built that way from day one, and it has some benefits, but it has some pitfalls and disadvantages that we need to kind of avoid and build mechanisms to help us to not be hacked or be scammed or protect our users in a general sense. So I can give you a few examples, and I can before that I can give you a security approach to
Hmm.
the way that like I look at it from security perspective. So when it comes to data or anything Web2, forget about crypto for a second. We have two categories of security mechanisms and best practices. We have security at rest, when you're storing the data, how you encrypt it, who has access to it, how you manage those accesses and authorizations and stuff like that. And then there is security in transit,
Yeah.
right? When you're sending data from one place to another, how you make sure that is end-to-end encryption, the channels and the hops that basically the data goes through is secure. Same thing happens basically in crypto. Crypto is no different than other type of data. The only difference is going to be stored in a basically in an open forum or block, as we call it, the blockchain,
Yeah.
and everybody has access to it, but it's still like secure. You cannot change it; it's immutable. But when there is a transaction, when there is a movement from one place to another, it's still like access to data that you need to build practices that have been built for like last 40 years around that. It's really not, we should not reinvent the wheel when it comes to security because the nature is the same. The core is the data on the internet, basically.
Hmm.
So we have done a great job as an industry in the crypto side to build a self-custody wallet that is absolutely secure and bulletproof. So companies like Fireblocks, Coinbase, and others, they're building things that is inherently secure, and you can store your assets, your value there, and you can make sure that nobody can steal it from you. But when it comes to transit, we have done very, very little. There are things that mesh can help to solve, and there are things that is outside of like any company cannot do that single-handedly.
Yeah.
The entire industry needs to move toward that. And I give you an example of problem that happens in transit. Um, First of all, if you want to transfer assets from one wallet to another, you ask users to copy this wallet address, God knows, paste it there, and then the transfer happens, right? And then the problem is like when it comes to banks, you can always call back if you like do a wrong ACH or wire. You can call your bank and say like cancel that wire or
Yeah.
cancel that ACH within the limited window of time. But when it comes to crypto, once you click that send button, nobody can reverse it. Like that's the purpose of blockchain. So we wanted to make sure that users are not the weak links here. So
Yeah.
instead of doing that, first of all, we want to make it super easy for users to do that. They don't need to copy and paste wallet address, a random alphanumeric address. And when they copy it, they might paste it in the wrong place. They might get scammed actually, and by doing that, and then they might get hacked, and they might send money to someone that they don't intend it to. They didn't intend it to, and then the other problem is once you do that, you cannot reverse it. So we want to build a governance layer on top of that to make sure that, first of all, from security perspective and also from compliance perspective, that you're not receiving money from a bad actor or like an account in North Korea or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's how we solve part of that transit problem. And a great example for that is what happened if you search DEA send crypto to the wrong address. So basically, DEA sees some assets, illegal assets, and then they wanted to transfer it to cash it out. And then hackers got involved and they created an address. And then the last 5 digit and first 5 digit of the address was exactly the same as the place that DA is supposed to send.
Oh no.
And they sent it to the wrong place, and hackers took it, and they never
Oh,
could recover that. So things in that nature, if it happens for DEA, a big government agency, could potentially happen to anyone. So we can potentially solve some of those problems, but I think the whole industry needs to move toward a more compliant, secure way to transit assets from one place to another.
yeah, and that's that to me from the scam level. That's the kind of the scary part is the maybe the identity aspect of it that you just don't necessarily know that where you're sending it is where you think you're sending it, and
Yep.
whether or not they're a legitimate entity. Are exchanges working on doing a better job of maybe blocking bad actors, blocking bad addresses? Is there a central repository of, hey, this person, this has been used in scamming. Let's stop people from sending their crypto there.
Yeah, there are, and I think what we have done for internet, we can do that for crypto too. So if you remember early on in internet, we didn't have domain name
Yep.
services. So you had to type in the IP address, and that's against the nature of humans.
Yeah.
And like, right, so you want to know like who you're sending an email to or what website you're visiting. You want to just type in the characters. You don't want to type numbers. We're not robots, not yet. The way that we should do that for crypto is the same. You should not send to a random alphanumeric address, or you should not receive fund from an alphanumeric address. You should receive fund from your wife, from your friends, from someone who you know, and you know their name, and you've done business with them before, or you're going to do the business for the first time, but you know the person that is sending money to you. That should be easily resolved because we
Mhm.
have solved that for TradFi or traditional financial institutions, and we solved it for internet. It's really not that hard to solve. That's number one. And number two is basically all these exchanges, they have a pool like Coinbase, Binance, everyone has a pool of assets that they don't know what to do with it because they cannot reverse a transaction, but they know for sure it came from an illicit account or
Mhm.
illegal account outside of US, could be North Korea, could be another like OFAC sanctioned country. And they cannot reverse it because that wallet address doesn't exist anymore. It just sent it and it's sitting there. They can touch it. So the way that this needs to be solved is we need to build a governance layer in a way that um, we prevent transactions before it happens.
Mhm.
Because of the nature of blockchain, when you initiate a transaction and then the other party receives the fund, they know where it comes from when it already sits in their account, which is
Yeah.
too late. You want to basically have a mechanism to verify the transaction before it happens, because after that it's too late. So these are two things that mesh can potentially help to solve for the industry. Um, and again, believe it or not, the core problem that you're tackling is not blockchain, is not crypto, is not this industry, is identity.
Yeah.
And we already solved that for many different use cases, and crypto is not an exception.
Is some of the maybe pushback within the industry is that there is a segment of people that use crypto that specifically don't want identity associated with it?
Yeah, so crypto came with three promises. First was the decentralization. There is no central authority that can prevent things to happen, right? Which is fine. And then the second part is everything should be anonymous. So we want to respect identities of people who are using blockchain. And third one is the cost and the speed of things that happens is much, much faster and cheaper than traditional
Yeah.
compared to traditional financial institutions. So if you want to transfer fund from here to the Philippines, you can do that in a millisecond, versus if you want to go through the banks, it would be very, very expensive and also might take a week
Yeah.
or a month, depending on where you're sending the money to. So out of these three, the only thing that we need to compromise as an industry, for a good reason, is the identity piece. I think it's going to be healthier for everyone to implement KYC, AML, and things in that nature, without compromising the privacy of the users who are using. But we can do things to make sure that the identity of the people who are acting or actively doing things in the blockchain is verified.
Hmm.
I think one of the things that I'm seeing in the industry that hopefully we see the benefits of that is WorldCoin. That is a controversial project of Sam Altman. Um, so if people are interested in identity plus crypto, that's a good one. That they want their goal is basically solving that problem for the industry.
So do you think that's where the industry is going, or do you think there's going to be a lot of pushback against a compromise of these three? I don't. Oh gosh, I don't know how to say erosion or compromise. An adjustment
Yeah.
of the core principles of crypto.
I think you can have it both ways. If you want to have an industry that is going to be used only by crypto bros and some and some random bad actors and with some illicit activities, then you can have it, but you should not expect that to be adopted by everyday people. I think every single leader in the industry, they want crypto to be adopted by the mass number of users. And if you want that, there are some compromises you need to make, on the security part, on the identity part, and also you need to make it a little bit more user friendly.
Yeah.
I don't think crypto as is as user friendly as it needs to be for everyday people to use it on everyday use cases.
And I think part of that, people are currently taking advantage of that and setting up fake apps. And hey, if you send me some crypto, we can invest it on your behalf. And in this app, it looks like you're making money. It looks like it's increasing in value. But then as soon as you want to transfer it out of there, all of a sudden, gosh, it's oh, you need to do this. Oh, there's a failure in transferring the money out, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, wait a second, this was an unethical third party as opposed to a legitimate organization.
That's right. And it's an egg and chicken problem. You can't blame the users for not doing their research. You can't blame the industry. And I think the way I see that it will be resolved is crypto being adopted by all these banks that people already built trust with, and they trust them. So they can, if you want to buy crypto, you should be able to open your bank account and just do that there, instead of like transferring fund, because there is a will and you will find a way to do
Yeah.
that. And then you might end up transferring funds to somewhere that is not trustworthy. I think the industry on the Web2 side should move toward Web3 a little bit, and also the Web3 folks, if they want mass adoption, they need to be able to compromise in some of the things to make this more appealing for risk-averse companies like big banks. And the benefit goes to the end users, that they
Yeah.
can get everything they want in one place in a simple and safe and secure way.
And the reality is probably the vast majority of people that are using crypto or who would use crypto are not using it for nefarious purposes. They're just trying to move money from one location to another quickly, conveniently, easily.
Yeah,
They're not running a drug empire or an illicit goods empire uh,
that's right.
via crypto.
That's right. And I think one good benefit of crypto when it comes to international transfer, nothing can beat crypto because you can build a local system that is faster, better, cheaper. Like we are talking about FedNow these days, that is going to be a modern version of wire transfers, more
Mhm.
safe and it's instantaneous. It's 24/7. You can do that anytime. Um, Different version of that is already existed in Europe and in Asia. There is no global mechanism to transfer
Yeah.
assets from one bank to another, and crypto could be that. It's cheap, safe, and secure, depending on where you want to send a fund. And I think that could be a potential home run for crypto.
It's almost like, okay, crypto's the foundation, and we just need to build another layer on top of it that kind
Yes,
of uses crypto in the background, but the way that we as users interact with it, we
even
don't really
notice.
see it that way.
Yes. So I'm sure you've heard a concept called stablecoins.
Hmm.
Um, So the benefits of stablecoins is it's not volatile. It's in par with US dollar. There is a pegging. So the reason that we have not used Bitcoin specifically, that everybody knows, for payments is because it's very volatile. So let's say you want to buy a pair of shoes online, it's $30. You pay $30, the merchant might get $32, they might get $28 because it's volatile. But a stablecoin can solve that problem. Every USDC or USDT is exactly equal to $1. And then there are other things that come into the market called yield coin that basically is not a staking, but every US dollar that you're storing for every USDC, for instance, if it creates an interest, then you get part of that interest as well. Um, so that's the next version of like stable coins that's coming to the market, especially now that the interest rate is high. But my point is, a stable coin can play an important role in terms of solving um, that and addressing that issue that you just mentioned. If you want to transfer fund from here to someone in Philippines, you don't notice that like behind the scene,
Yeah.
your US dollar gets transferred to a stable coin, and stablecoin is an asset on blockchain. It will be transferred much faster because blockchain doesn't have the geography that we have on, like it's accessible everywhere that there is internet. And then the other party will basically off ramp it to either US dollar or local currency, and then you receive it on the other end. So you feel like you hate crypto, you never used blockchain, you don't know anything about it, but behind the scene, that could be the channel that transfers your assets from one place to another.
Yeah, I know a number of business people who would love to be able, who were in the position of, hey, we'd love to accept payments in crypto. And maybe for industries where you have a very large profit margin, software, things like that, that variation in pricing, that fluctuation, okay, we can afford to lose a little bit of money here, make a little bit of extra money there. But when you get to physical hardware goods where you might only have a couple percent margin,
That's right.
and your store of Bitcoin drops 10% today, great.
Yeah,
Now we just lost a whole bunch of money selling this product. Obviously, the
that's
flip
right.
side could happen, but businesses like stability. We want to know that this
Exactly
is
what
going to be here tomorrow. We don't want to have to cash out our kind of as soon as we receive the crypto, cash it out and put it back into US dollars or whatever the local
exactly.
currencies, and then back and forth every single time that we do a transaction. It just
There are services that they do that. So you're a merchant, you accept crypto, And then behind the scene, what happens, the moment you receive the crypto, it will be transferred to US dollar and will be transferred to your account as if you received
Yeah.
from like Visa card or MasterCard. You never see crypto at all. And again, when this happens, there are a lot of moving pieces
Yeah.
and there are a lot of transfers from one place to another. There's a lot of on-ramp and off-ramp happening behind the scene. It's important to think about in-transit security.
Yes.
If you don't do that in a correct way, you might never see the fund that you received, right?
Yeah. And then I guess, all this on ramping and off ramping, we're trying to avoid it from becoming Visa and MasterCard at 2, 3, 4%
Yep.
of the cost on the transit or the
Yep. That's
conversion or
right.
whatever have you. Wherever someone else is touching it, you don't want them uh,
Yep. So I have good news
overcharging
on
you.
that. On that end, yeah, the another benefit of crypto is because it's much cheaper to run. It's much
Mhm.
cheap. It's going to be way cheaper to run it. We're making some movements and on new version of Ethereum, Solana, and others to make it super fast and super cheap to maintain all these transactions and ledgers. So the benefit of that goes to end users. There is a hidden cost every time you're buying with your MasterCard or your Visa
Yeah.
card or Amex that you're paying out of your pocket. Merchant doesn't pay it, but there is like 2%, 3%, 4%, as you mentioned. That might go all the way to 0.2, 0.1%,
Yeah.
and get the benefit of it as a consumer.
That becomes a lot more attractive for the business as well because
Yes.
uh, while I'm starting to see more businesses, if you opt to pay with a credit card, they'll up your bill. Most
Yes.
businesses are just designed to absorb that cost,
Yes.
and when you're operating with small margins, that small cost could be very significant. And switching to point, a decimal place at the beginning as opposed to at
Yes.
the end, that could fundamentally change profitability on businesses. And also, then you're hurting. Financial institutions are also losing out. So it's going there's a shift somewhere in where the resources are happening, but it
Yes.
does
It's
make
going to
the
be
cost of doing business less.
100%. Yeah. The cost of doing business is a race to zero. So more expensive systems will be replaced by less expensive and faster systems and more efficient systems. And it has been proven in history again and again and again. So, and maybe that's one of the reasons that you're seeing a huge pushback by big banks
Yeah.
and large financial institutions against crypto, because there is a existential threat. I'm sure you've heard Jamie Dimon mentioned that we should shut down crypto because there are illegal activities. And it's funny that he said that because they've been fined $10 billion, I don't know, in last 3 years or whatever period of time, for illegal activities happen on Chase, and they were okay to pay that, and they're building in a good faith things to avoid those illegal activity to happen
Yeah.
again. Nothing bad about Jamie Dimon and his empire, but same as crypto. If there are bad activities happening there are ways to fix it. We should not shut down an innovative way that could benefit consumers at the end, uh, by um, by force of authority of the government, versus we can work with government and governmental agencies and regulatory frameworks and agencies to build those frameworks and make crypto a safer place for everyone and get all the upside of it.
Yeah, I think that's what everybody wants is safe crypto. In that, I think anytime you talk crypto, people either think uh,
Yeah.
making a lot of money, losing a lot of money, or somebody stealing a lot of money. It's kind of the public view. Those that are in
100%.
the space, it's not as big, bad, and scary as that. But I think the public has been uh, uh, crypto has been demonized to some extent.
100%. But I can, as a technologist, I can see a lot of benefits of crypto for day-to-day people. If we were to shut it down when it was just Bitcoin and only being used by drug dealers and like I don't know, like OPEC countries and terrorists, we could have shut it down back then. But because we did not do that, because we want innovation, we want the technology to evolve. Now we have a beautiful thing called a stablecoin that could unlock many different use cases in a very safe way and secure way, that end users can see the benefit of that very soon. We have seen a lot of winters in crypto industry, and every winter we learn, we look back, we learn something. I think the last winter after what happened with FTX and Binance, we learned that if you want crypto to be adopted by everyone and being used, you need to do two things. You need to make it more compliant and secure,
Yeah.
and also you need to make it easier to use for everyday people. And I think this could potentially help us to have a more stable and healthy bull run that's happening hopefully in 2024.
Do you see more collapses of entities that uh, kind of like Binance and FTX that there's still some significant bad players in the field that need to come off the course or come off the court?
Yeah, so if you look at it from experience perspective, we learn enough to not do what we have done as an industry as a whole. Same thing that happened for the mortgage industry.
Yeah.
So in 2008, everyone would get get qualified for a loan, and then the collapse happened. Now it's much harder. We built a lot of guardrails to make sure that we don't repeat that mistake. I think same thing happened here. So um, um, like there is a proof of fund. Like you can just claim that this token is valuable. You need to make sure that there is a fund and audited by third parties to show that this token is healthy. Things in that nature that like we're building practices and mechanisms, and we learn from these winter that hopefully avoid big collapses like FTX and so on and so forth in the future. That being said, there is no guarantee that everything will be safe.
Yeah.
I always ask my friends and my family members to do their research, make sure that they're like working with the right people, right company, especially crypto, because it's a global and international concept. You might just wire money to someone in Switzerland or in Germany or in Colombia. You want to make sure that you know that those countries are following the best practices,
Yeah.
best regulations. Um, and the biggest pitfall for day-to-day people is new tokens. So, for instance, when Dogecoin came out, everybody was like rushing into the Dogecoin
Yeah.
because it was just make their money twice every day. So, and then Coinbase and other like legit exchanges would not offer that until uh, it become more mature. But as a result, people were like sending money to Philippines, and
Mm-hmm.
someone in Philippines would buy Dogecoin because it was like less regulations hurdles in Philippines or other countries. And as a result, a lot of people lost a lot of money as well. So there were things that like every every time that some bad thing happens, people learn about it. And I think crypto is no exception. Is a tool, could be used for bad reasons, could be used for good reasons. Um, and I think there are a lot of benefits to it. And there are a lot of things that we can do to avoid those pitfalls.
So, from a consumer perspective, of someone who's maybe they want to be cautious about crypto, that they're totally new to it, they don't know anything, they understand that they need to move cautiously. They're not looking for I want to triple my money over the next 4 days. What are the things that they should be watching out for? Which is these are high risk sort of interactions or high risk things that they may want to stay away from.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the risk appetite of every single person. If you look at crypto as an investment asset, I always suggest to not get exposed more than your risk appetite, whether it's like 2%, 5%, 10%. Don't just go and borrow money and buy
Yeah.
crypto because it might get double. Don't do this type of risky things. That's purely my suggestion. It's not an investment advice. But there are things that we're going to see in 2024 and 2025 that everyday people can use crypto and blockchain to save money and save time. And it would suggest people to be more curious and educate themselves about those use cases because they don't have to buy Bitcoin and wait for 10 years and then make their money like 10 times bigger, like get higher performance compared to S&P 500. I'm not suggesting those type of use
Hmm.
cases, but there are going to be use cases that you can pay with crypto and you can save money and you can save time. And we were not ready for that environment until like very, very recently.
Hmm.
So we're going to see a lot of innovative technologies coming out to the market in the next couple of years.
So you want to watch for uh, companies maybe that uh, you've heard of before.
Yes.
Things like that, rather than, oh, there's this company in this faraway land which is doing this great thing. But once the company names that you start recognizing it are starting to do things with crypto that.
Yeah. So if there is, for instance, if Nike is selling you a pair of shoes and you know Nike, and then they say like if you buy this with crypto, then there is a token we give it to you that could be potentially valuable. There are points and like loyalty points that if you collect and accumulate that, then you can get a free like pair of shoes. And by the way, if you do that, it's on pre-order now. You will be the first one getting this pair of shoes. And people who are paying with fiat currency, they would be last, for instance.
Mhm.
But it's Nike, and you can trust Nike, and you can trust Coinbase, it's a public company. If you have assets in Coinbase, you just connect your Coinbase and do things in that nature. If you hear somebody is selling you a picture of monkeys and they're asking for 1 million, probably is not a good investment.
We won't go there and talk about who that might be.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up here, if people want to learn about what you're doing, what Mesh is doing, where can they find out about that?
Yeah, so you can go to meshconnect.com. We have a blog section that we typically post interesting things. You can learn about the industry. You can also, if you're a fintech founder, if you're working in Web3 space or crypto space, you want to build a secure system, you want to offer secure transfer to your end users, we would be more than happy to talk to you. I hope you can like tag my LinkedIn. Anyone who wants
Yep.
to talk to me personally, I'm available there.
Yep, we'll definitely have your Twitter, your LinkedIn account on the show notes. So anyone who wants to go over to the show notes page, we'll have all that all linked up for them.
Awesome.
Bam, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate the time. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.